First of all, thank you all for remaining. We realize the difficulty of staying to the end of the conference, but as you know, they usually save the best for last. So we hope that we won't be disappointing you. We were actually hoping that Adi would be presenting previously because we stole part of her title for our project. Where's the clicker? Here, okay. And does this work? Okay. And we'll be talking about leadership in higher education. And in the spirit of the conference, we're going to be talking about Erasmus and Tempest programs that were aimed to making the world a better place through the Erasmus program of the European Commission, which India has just become part of. So it's a very, very exciting moment for all of us. Often, and I'm going backwards, I'm going to present 5 examples of Erasmus or Tempest programs that were aimed to try to make that really were aimed to get higher education out of the ivory tower and involved in social issues and social issues that we feel were important for Israeli society or Israeli and their partner societies. And so I'll be presenting these Key Action 2 capacity programs, and then Janina will be presenting the TeachX, which is led by the IDC, which is aimed to promote the quality of teaching in higher education. Now, one of the most important things, and something which I myself am passionate about, and this was my project that I designed and led, had the honor of leading in 7 countries, 21 academic institutions, was called Do It, and it was for promoting curriculum reform for diversity, children's rights, and multicultural education, and mostly in teacher training programs, but the IDC and Ben Gurion University and other universities were part of this program. Now, I could spend the whole time just talking about Do It, but I won't. We're talking about sustainability and leadership and getting students to realize that they are accountable and responsible to their community. Do It succeeded in all the curriculum reform and creating new curriculum and creating new programs and establishing student activities to promote intercultural relations. But most important were our spin-offs, because that is sustainability, and that reflects entrepreneurship. And so even after the life of the program, I have students in Georgia, they were our partner countries. One created with a group of 5 other students, an NGO that promotes civic behavior for the KISS population outside of Tel Aviv. My Georgian NGO got a grant to watch over children's rights in outlying regions. And then my major university, Ilia State University in Georgia, they got a research grant to research multicultural education and curriculum in Georgia and write action plan to promote it. So usually these Erasmus programs or Tempest programs, they're great for 3 years and they end and they die. What's very important, though, is the theme of this conference, which talks about sustainability and maintaining the momentum and the vision after the life of the project. And so this is one example of a project, and you're welcome to, I actually have flyers if you're interested. You go onto the webpage, see the field monitoring report after the life of the project, which documents our sustainability. Another project which again brings the ivory tower to meet the real needs of our society is called DEAR. And it's for developing programs for access of disadvantaged groups of people and regions to higher education. Now, you all can say, well, that's no problem. Just give them scholarships and the peripheral populations can come to our university, which many of us do. But we discovered that the problem is having them succeed in higher academic studies. And so this project, which is now finishing its first year, it aims to provide the support network, not only give them the money or the scholarship so they can succeed, but a whole support system that will make sure that these students that we're accepting, that we're outreaching for, will manage to get their academic degrees. And to do this, and this is very important, there are 2 sides to the story. Not only the students getting the needed help, but it's training the administrative staff and the faculty in working with these students. The faculty have to realize that in working with students from peripheral areas, we have to be attuned to their needs and their special, and the special extra that we have to go in order to make them succeed. Next. Oh, I have the next. Okay. Clever. Okay. Clever is creating creative leadership. And the idea that you want students to be leaders not only when they're in our universities, but sustain it in lifelong learning. And this project is aimed at the creating all the professions of creative economy and ecosystems. Making sure that the graduates have the skills that will be enable them to be flexible, to meet the demands of the society, and maintain a leadership status and position through all of their portfolio careers and their careers as creative experts. Oops. I'm so used to working in collaboration that okay. But okay, we talked about deer. We talked about clever. And Silas is what Eric, who left, said he was going to talk about. And this is actually a very exciting program that unites Israel and Indian institutions for the first time through Erasmus projects. And it's to improve the status of women in our societies. And it's a very, very exciting program, and I'm sure Eric will enlighten us more about them. And then finally is recently selected. It's on one of my projects for Erasmus Plus that I designed. It's to promote curriculum reform for democracy and civic education and action in teacher training programs in Israel and in Georgia. It's a joint project. We very strongly believe that teachers should be involved in their society, and our societies need strengthening in democratic principles and behaviors. We see teachers as training the future leaders, future citizens of our society. So this program not only gears to curriculum, we're going to create centers of civic action on our campuses in which students will have community programs and that will hopefully make our society a bit of a better place to live in. And with these sort of visionary and optimistic, and I'm optimistic even if we're going to have the greenhouse warming effect, and I'm an anthropologist, which is a bit different than all of you here, many of you are engineers, and I believe in the continuity of humanity, and this is what I work for, and I guess you work for it too, even though you might be engineers. That you think of how can we maintain, make our world a better place. If it's slums in the city, how do we transform these slums so that the people are engaged and involved in the communities that they live in? Now, it all begins, really, if we believe that through education we can do change. Then we as educators, the professors, the lecturers, the senior lecturers, have an obligation in our teaching. And this next project, and I'm going to pass over the clicker, is teaching excellence. And it's because how many of you sitting in this classroom, some of you are sleeping, so that reflects me, you can be a great, great scholar, but if you can't deliver the message to the audience, then you've lost them. And I'm sure that you've sat here for a full day today and you've heard some very excellent talks and maybe less excellent talks. But if the person knows how to market their ideas, the less excellent talks might have even made more of an impact. So no matter how great a thinker you are, you have to know how to teach it and how to deliver it. And Janina is now going to talk about engaged teaching and learning and this project of TeachX. And here's the clicker, and I'm okay with it. Okay.
I don't know how many of you have had experience at university, in university years of when you were students, of sitting in a class and having to use a brilliant researcher who was a terrible teacher. Okay? And both of us, both Rhonda and myself, come from teacher education institutions where teaching is high up on the agenda. So we deal a lot with, firstly, teaching teachers of the future, but we ourselves are models. And so we have to deal with how we're teaching. And part of what that means is how to reach students in this changing world, and that's what we're dealing with, how to be role models, but also how to reduce the generation gap, and how to put that somewhere on the agenda. Because when I speak to my colleagues within this group of teachers, a lot of them say, the ones that aren't from teaching education institutions, they say that a lot of times they have difficulty getting lecturers to talk about the how to teach. They're interested in the what, in the content, but very much less in how to get that message across. And I think that that's one of the aims, that's the main aim, in fact, of this project, of this consortium, to put it up high on the agenda. The Institute for Higher Education in Israel has put that up on its agenda. Unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, it's nowhere near where science publishing is, because that's ultimately what counts, but we're trying somehow to get extra brownie points for being able to deliver the message and to make meaningful relationships with those individuals sitting in the class, because I'm sure a lot of you here will agree that as you were growing up, the people that had an impact, a major impact on your lives, besides perhaps your parents, were educational figures that were meaningful teachers. And I know for myself anyhow, that at the university level, when children leave school and go into higher education, that becomes even more meaningful. So those are the kinds of things that we're trying to deal with. Now, if you can imagine, what we are hoping to produce, and of course we're receiving full support from the Council of Higher Education in Israel, is to come up with products. We did some kind of analysis first to see what's happening in various universities, and we are creating products that we hope that our Israeli partners and Israeli institutions as a whole, as well as international institutions, will consider buying, not buying because it won't cost anything, but using afterwards in their institutions. So this is the picture of the group of us, made up of Israeli and European partners, and this lovely mix of individuals, creative academics from teacher education institutions. There are 3 involved in this. It was a consortium of 16 institutions, and other vastly different types of institutions make for a very, very interesting work process. So I'll tell you a little more about that now. One of our avenues for improving education in higher education institutions are firstly through centers of excellence in teaching. I don't know to what extent that's a part of your higher education institutions. I know that in Israel, most institutions have an existing unit that gives some kind of framework for teaching teachers or lecturers to be better lecturers. Some institutions don't have that. Our aim is that every higher education institution will have a unit of this nature. And those that do will also be improving, will be thinking about the kinds of things that they're offering their lecturers, and will be constantly trying to upgrade that. And so we're working together on preparation of different guides for best practices. And I'm going to give you a few examples of that. Here you'll see that our first section of the project, which actually my colleague Rhonda here was responsible for, was this mapping process, where we spoke about, we examined the successes, our challenges, and our goals of the project. And then we decided to focus on 5 specific areas, and I'll just speak briefly on each one of those areas now. So the first is diversity and accessible instruction, and this comes from the area of, well, it comes from the premise that if I have a group of students sitting in my class, and they come from vastly different, or even minorly different, cultures, religions, if I'm only talking about my culture and my religion, I'm actually excluding a certain percentage of them. And I know that as a lecturer over the years, it's always been very important for me to be sensitive to the people that are sitting in front of me. and to understand or to appreciate or to acknowledge the important things in their lives, to connect with them. And once I manage to do that, everything else is easy. So I think that this attempt to deal with diversity in classes is actually worrying about the well-being of our students, and that enables me then to become a much better teacher. Okay, I'll just move on to the next slide here, where we're talking about providing tools. We've actually developed an online course for teachers to participate in, lecturers at universities, that deal with different aspects of diversity and allow them to examine themselves, the kinds of ways or their attitudes towards diversity, and then providing different kinds of models. I don't know to what extent you're familiar with universal design and learning. A few different people today mentioned, they didn't actually use the words universal design and learning, but Boaz Ben David earlier spoke about accommodating different kinds of ways of access to maybe people who are more on the margins of society. So it could be somebody with a physical disability, it could be an older person who has a vision disability. But once I provide those people with the tools to be able to have access to what I'm providing, it makes it a whole lot easier for a whole range of other people. And so just universal in the sense that it can be understood by everyone, learning the what, the recognition, the how, the skills and strategies, and the why, the caring and prioritizing of learning. And then diversity, which I've already spoken about, the fact that every learner is unique and one size does not fit all. And here design comes in, so that education systems should provide multiple means of representation, multiple means of engagement, and multiple means of action and expression. So that I'm giving different students, when they have a learning disability or learning difference, as some people prefer to call it, or they may come from a background where they haven't been necessarily exposed to certain things. So what I'm doing is I'm providing them with different tools to have access to the message that I'm giving or the process that we're going through in that classroom. And as I said, if you design for people in the margins, you accommodate a whole wide range of people that you never even intended thinking about. In addition to that, my colleagues at Bezalel Academy of Arts and Design have been working on a project of active reflective teaching and learning. What they did is they took teachers that are very successful in teaching about architecture and different design aspects and analyzed together with them the kinds of processes that they go through. And the rationale is to facilitate a process whereby lecturers engage in reflective practice while experiencing active learning. A lot of their learning is very active, creating their teaching each time anew. And central to this approach is creating a sense of community, the idea that you're working together with a group. You know, very often colleagues of mine used to say to me, a teacher walks into the classroom, closes the door, and that's the end of it. It's the teacher versus the students. And here you're working together with a community of teachers, community of lecturers, where you're discussing different issues that come up, different insights. The data collection takes place by each lecturer, but the community of teachers together interpret the collected data. And one of the things that they say is an advantage for this is that it can be used firstly individually in particular classes, but it can also be used in faculties or in the whole institution as a whole. The thoroughness, again, my colleagues at Bezalel spoke to me about the fact that very often, as opposed to, as I mentioned earlier, our institution, which deals a lot about how to teach, theirs doesn't. They focus a whole lot more on content, and this very thorough process that they are working on now as a module is thorough enough to be able to focus also on the how. Mobile learning, this is another one of the products, you could say, that we're going to be offering to our colleagues in different higher education institutions. It comes from the premise that it's actually everybody sitting in this room here has a cell phone. And we find that every student that walks into our class has a cell phone. And this morning I was sitting with a colleague from the Technion in Haifa, and he said that a lot of lecturers tell their students that they have to put their cell phones away. They're not allowed to take them out. And the premise here is that it's a waste. It's a waste to have everybody walking in with a cell phone and not utilizing it. So the idea of this module is that it will provide a whole range of tools. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with some of those tools in gathering and organizing data, creating digital products, reflecting and constructing new knowledge. It's taking it and using it and exploiting it for the learning process. And number 4, our 4th product that I'm presenting today's lecturer as producer. And here, this module will provide tools for faculty to become independent producers of simple explanatory videos. So the products need to fit different types of courses, and they're expected to increase involvement and motivation both of the lecturer, but also obviously of the students. They also, one of the advantages of this is that students, possibly with difficulties in any kind of levels, can just look at that over and over again, because those are things that exist, and it's not a lecture that you're hearing that you have to note down what's being said. And finally, the 5th of our products is problem or project-based learning. And this kind of learning is characterized by engaging students around particular dilemmas. Students consider how they will share that dilemma and subsequently resolve it with their community. Okay? And they need to take into account peers. There's a lot of fine-tuning with peers. Again, if you're talking about diverse groups, which I know in Israel is very much something that we experience sitting in our classroom. This whole range of different students that come from different backgrounds, and you need to reach the others, to listen to them, they need to listen to you. And these are all skills that we're giving our students to deal with life outside of the classroom, and certainly life for us teacher education institutions, life inside the schools. Obviously it demands patience, time management, and ultimately also promotes social justice. I'm just going to end off by saying that I invite you all, I know that most of you are from universities, and I invite you to consider how you might use our modules at this present moment. We're in the development stage. Next year we're going to be piloting these, and finally we're going to be doing a little fine-tuning, and then there'll be modules that will be ready to use. And not only would we be very happy to share them with you, but we'll also be very happy to engage with you and be involved in other collaborative projects, Erasmus Plus type projects or others with our Indian